Hey, what's up, Movement? Welcome back to our series. We're interviewing some of our volunteers and getting their story and some of the advice that they would give their younger self when they were in your shoes. It's been a great series so far, and today we're interviewing Rayleigh Malone, who's been a part of Venture like 3 decades now. And so she's got a great story for us. So y'all be sure to check this out. Rayleigh, I've known you for a while now, but I don't know your story. So what's your story? What's your faith walk? What's it like?
Yeah, so I'm not 3 decades old yet, but it kind of feels like I have been here for 3 decades in some ways, because my dad is on staff here. He has been since I was about 1.5 years old. So really, I've been in Venture my entire life. I got to see all the changes we went through downtown when we were first Hattiesburg, and leading up to where we are now, starting this new thing with house churches. And it's just really cool to have been a part of that.
No doubt.
But through that, I got to be a part of Venture Students. It was called Impact, what's now the Movement. And so I got to be a part of that all throughout high school, which was really awesome, all throughout middle school and high school. And through that, I just learned a lot about the Lord, and I built some really amazing relationships with people.
That's awesome. So what's something that you think you really struggled with coming through high school? What are some of the struggles that hurt the worst? Does that make sense?
Yeah. For me, I know a lot of things people struggle with in high school weren't really my typical, I don't know, I feel like I didn't have the typical high school story. I feel like I didn't really face a lot of peer pressure or anything like that, because I really spent so much time at the church, and all of my close friends were friends from church. And so I feel like I was kind of almost in a little bubble for a little bit of high school, where I was just in this safe place and surrounded by people who were encouraging me and building me up. But in some ways, I feel like I kind of leaned towards my faith becoming a performance. And a lot of things in my life were about performance, grades, academics. I wanted to be the best at everything I did, and got a little competitive in there. But through that, I was living for my own glory and not for the Lord's glory. And through that, a lot of anxiety would come up in my life because I wanted to control everything.
Oh, man. Now, you mentioned your bubble. Everybody's going to come out of the bubble eventually. So how was it coming out of the bubble?
For me, I would definitely say that didn't happen until my freshman year of college. Well, kind of towards the end of senior year, I think the bubble was kind of burst. Up and throughout high school, I didn't have to study, and I would make straight A's. I wouldn't have to work that hard, and everything would kind of work out for me. And then I got to end of senior year, and the scholarship that I was I'm going to get this scholarship. It's going to be awesome. I didn't get it. And man, I was just crushed, because I realized I really didn't have a whole lot of faith in God's plans for me, because I was so used to controlling everything. And so that's kind of when the bubble was burst, and I was you know what, I have to surrender things to the Lord. And so I went to USM. I graduated last May, but my freshman year of college too was a lot different. It was the first time I was ever faced with peer pressure. It was the first time I ever had to figure out a schedule for myself, and I wasn't, in class from 8 to 4, and that was my day. It was okay, I have all this free time. What do I do with it? How do I align my priorities? So there were definitely a lot of different things I had to navigate coming out of high school, and figuring out how do I handle these things in a way that glorifies the Lord, and how do I stay true to myself and find my identity and my worth in the Lord ultimately, and not all these accomplishments.
That's good. So stepping back a little bit, with high school, you said that you performed for yourself or for the people around you, but not for Christ. So what's something that kind of helped with that, helped turn the corner with that? Yeah,
for me, I would definitely say, backtracking a little bit, just to give a little context, in high school, my faith was definitely a checklist. It wasn't really a faith. It was more of okay, here are the things I'm supposed to do, and here are the things I'm not supposed to do. And I had a bit of pride, and that was a sin I didn't even realize I had until I got out of it, because I almost felt better than all these people, because I was look at all the ways they're messing up. I'm not doing that. I'm rolling. I got this. And really, it was me trying to be in control of my own life, and not just saying hey God, what can I do better? How can I be more like you every single day? It was more of I've made it, I've arrived, not how can I get better or anything like that. And so definitely going into college, I started to make some of the mistakes that I was criticizing other people for making. And that's when it really hit me in the face, and I was wow, I don't have this all together, and I got so busy freshman year of college, and the way I would describe it is I drifted a lot from the Lord. It wasn't a point of rebellion where it was okay, you know what, I'm free, I'm going to do all these things. It was kind of when you're at the beach and your umbrella's right there, and then you're swimming out in the water, and then all of a sudden you look up and the current is taking you so far down that you're I don't even know where I am anymore. And so that's kind of what it was for me in my walk with the Lord and in my faith freshman year. So I kind of came to a point where I was I can't do this anymore. And I actually came to a Bible study. It was a woman who had poured into me throughout high school, and I'd kind of drifted away from that. Wasn't really wanting to go back because there's a lot of conviction there. And I was you know what? I don't want to have to go sit in Bible study and feel bad about myself. But somehow I just ended up going one night, and I would spend some nights until 2 a.m. just sitting on her couch talking to her. And she was a volunteer here too, which was a huge part of that. So I had that trust with her from knowing her through Venture Students as well.
That's so important. I feel like we neglect that community. You know, that bubble, quote unquote, is so important sometimes to be able to lean into that community. And that sometimes when we step out of it, we forget about it and we neglect it. And so a lot of times when we hit that point that you were talking about where you just can't do it anymore, we go running back to that community. And thankfully they're almost always there, you know. And I think it's really important for us as leaders to be that community for others as well. So to tell your former self, what's one thing that you would tell your high school self that you wish you knew then?
To sum it all up, kind of everything that I struggled with, when I got to my sophomore year of college, I went on a mission trip, and there was a girl on the mission trip who just really poured into me. And one thing she said to me, like, will always stick with me, and it's kind of my go-to piece of advice. I think for a lot of high school students and college students or middle school, you know, no matter what age, just struggling with trying to work things out and figure things out and take control. She told me, she was like, Jesus is worth everything that you're afraid of losing. And so whether that's friends, whether that's maybe like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, whether that's time, whether that's like achievements, I realized like none of that compares to like what God has in store for you. And like all these things I thought were so important, like looking at them now, none of those things have impacted my life. And that was only like 3 years ago, you know, and they're still like already don't mean anything to me. My relationship with Christ has been so like, you know, it's eternal, but it's sustained me so much. And all these things I put so much importance in have just been like dust, you know, they faded away. And so that's definitely my piece of advice. Like just surrender it to the Lord, and everything that you think is like worth it, it really isn't in comparison to what God has in store for you.
Man, that's such a good word, Rayleigh. And I think that's a great stopping point. You know, this series has been so great. And be sure to go back and check out all the other videos if you haven't seen them already. And we'll see you very, very soon. Bye, guys.